Commander Jake Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Earthship Horizon and watched the stars through the main screen. His hands were steady on the control panel, but his heart was beating fast. Today was different from any other day in his 20 years of space travel. Today, humanity would meet its first alien predator species. The communication device crackled to life. "Commander Mitchell, we are receiving the signal again," said Lieutenant Sarah Johnson from her station. "The aliens are asking for help." Jake nodded and turned to Dr. Emily Watson, who stood beside him with her medical equipment ready. Emily was the best alien doctor Earth had ever trained, even though she had never actually treated an alien before. Her brown hair was tied back and her blue eyes showed both excitement and worry. "Are you ready for this, Emily?" Jake asked. Emily checked her medical scanner one more time. "As ready as anyone can be for treating a species we have never seen before." The ship moved through space toward the Vanguard system where the aliens waited. Ambassador Robert Chen walked onto the bridge, followed by Colonel Lisa Rodriguez. Robert was a calm man who had spent his life learning how to talk to different people. Lisa was a soldier who had spent her life learning how to protect people. "Commander, what do we know about these aliens?" Robert asked. Jake pulled up the information on the main screen. "They call themselves the Rivari. From what we can tell, they are predators. Big, strong, and they have been the most powerful species in their part of space for thousands of years." Lisa crossed her arms. "And now they are asking humans for help. That does not sound like typical predator behavior." "No, it does not," Jake agreed. "Their message said they are dying from something called the silent death. Their own doctors cannot help them." The ship computer made a soft beeping sound. "We are now entering the Vanguard system," announced the ship's voice. Jake looked at his team. "Remember, we are here to help, but we must be careful. We do not know what we are dealing with." Through the main screen, they saw a planet covered in silver cities and green forests. Alien ships moved around the planet like metal birds. These ships were different from human ships. They looked more like weapons than vehicles, with sharp edges and dark colors. One of the alien ships approached the horizon. It was 3 times larger than Jake's ship and looked like it could destroy them easily. Jake felt his mouth go dry, but he kept his voice steady. "This is Commander Jake Mitchell of Earth," he said into the communication device. "We received your call for help." The screen flickered, and then an alien face appeared. Jake heard Emily take a sharp breath beside him. The alien looked like a giant wolf that walked on 2 legs. She had silver fur, golden eyes, and teeth that could tear through metal. She was beautiful in a dangerous way, like looking at a lightning storm. When she spoke, her voice was deep and strong. "I am Blade Pack Leader Nix of the Eastern Territories," she said. "You are the humans who answered our call." "Yes, we are here to help," Jake replied. "What is this silent death that affects your people?" Nix's golden eyes seemed to look right through Jake. "Our senses are turning against us. We cannot tell friend from enemy. Our own hunting instincts make us attack our families. We are becoming blind while our eyes still work." Emily stepped forward. "May I ask you some medical questions?" Nix looked at Emily with surprise. Among the Rivari, only the strongest warriors spoke during important meetings. But something in Emily's voice made Nix nod. "Ask your questions, small healer." "When did this start? How many of your people are affected?" Nix's ears flattened against her head. "It began 6 months ago. First, just a few hunters reported strange episodes. Now half of our population suffers from it. Yesterday, my own pack brother attacked me because he could not recognize my scent." Jake watched Nix as she spoke. Even though she was asking for help, everything about her screamed predator. Her muscles were tense, ready to fight. Her eyes constantly moved, watching for threats. But there was something else, too. Something Jake had not expected to see. Fear. Suddenly, Nix stopped talking. Her golden eyes went wide and she began to shake. Her lips pulled back to show her dangerous teeth, and a low growl came from her throat. "Nix?" Jake called out. "What is wrong?" But Nix was no longer looking at the screen. Her head turned from side to side like she was seeing enemies that were not there. The growling got louder. Emily grabbed Jake's arm. She is having an episode. This must be the silent death. On the screen, other Rivari rushed toward Nyx, but when they got close, she snapped at them with her teeth. They backed away, their own growls filling the air. "Nyx!" Jake shouted into the communication device. "Look at me. Focus on my voice." Something amazing happened. In the middle of her confusion, Nyx's golden eyes found Jake's face on her screen. The shaking stopped. The growling became quieter. "You," Nyx whispered. "Your voice. I can hear you clearly." Jake kept talking in a calm, steady voice. "That is right. Listen to me. You are safe. Your pack is safe. The danger you are sensing is not real." Nyx's breathing began to slow down. The other Rivari watched in shock as their leader calmed down by listening to an alien they had just met. "How?" Nyx asked quietly. "How can you cut through the chaos when my own pack cannot?" Emily looked at Jake with wide eyes. She was thinking the same thing he was. Something impossible was happening here. "I do not know," Jake answered honestly. "But we are here to figure it out." Nyx stood up straight, her dignity returning. But something had changed. When she looked at Jake now, it was not with the eyes of a predator looking at potential prey. It was with the eyes of someone who had found help in the most unexpected place. "Commander Jake Mitchell," Nyx said formally. "The Rivari Council of Claws wishes to invite you to our planet. We have much to discuss." Jake looked at his team. Robert nodded. Lisa looked worried but determined. Emily was already packing her medical equipment. "We accept your invitation, Blade Pack Leader Nyx," Jake replied. As the Horizon prepared to land on the alien world, Jake could not shake the feeling that everything was about to change. Not just for the Rivari, who were dying from their own instincts. Not just for humanity, who were about to become involved in something beyond their understanding, but for the entire galaxy, where the impossible was about to become possible. Where predators might learn to trust their prey more than they trusted themselves. 3 weeks had passed since the humans arrived on the Rivari homeworld. Dr. Emily Watson walked through the halls of the council building with her medical equipment, followed by Marine Sergeant David Park. The silver walls were covered with claw marks from generations of Rivari leaders. Each mark told a story of strength and victory. But now many of those same walls had new marks. Fresh scratches from Rivari who could no longer control themselves. Emily stopped outside the main meeting room. Through the thick doors, she could hear the deep voices of the Rivari Council arguing. They had been arguing for hours about what to do with the silent death that was destroying their people. "Dr. Watson," David said quietly, "are you sure about going in there? That pack leader Vex has been getting worse every day." Emily checked her medical scanner. "The readings show his stress levels are through the roof. But we need to understand what happens during a complete breakdown if we are going to help them." David nodded and touched his weapon. He did not want to hurt any Rivari, but his job was to protect Emily. "I will be right behind you." The doors opened with a heavy sound. Inside, 12 Rivari leaders sat around a circular table made of black stone. Each leader represented a different territory on their world. At the head of the table sat Elder Fang, the oldest and most respected Rivari alive. Elder Fang was ancient even by Rivari standards. His once silver fur had turned white, and scars covered his body from a lifetime of battles. But his golden eyes were still sharp, and when he spoke, every other Rivari listened. "Ah, Dr. Watson," Elder Fang said. "Please join us. We were just discussing Pack Leader Vex's condition." Emily looked at Vex, who sat across the table. He was younger than the other leaders, with dark gray fur and muscles that showed he was still a powerful warrior, but something was wrong. His hands were shaking and his eyes kept moving around the room like he was looking for hidden enemies. "Pack Leader Vex," Emily said gently. "How are you feeling today?" Vex turned to look at her, and Emily saw the fear in his eyes. "The sounds are getting louder, human doctor. I hear my enemies everywhere, but when I look, there is nothing there." Commander Jake Mitchell entered the room with Ambassador Robert Chen and Colonel Lisa Rodriguez. Jake had been working with the Rivari military to understand their combat systems. Robert had been learning about their culture and government. Lisa had been studying their weapons and defense strategies. "Forgive the interruption," Robert said, with a respectful bow. "But we have some new information about the silent death that might help." Elder Fang gestured for them to sit. "Please, share what you have learned." Emily opened her medical scanner and showed the readings to everyone in the room. "We have been studying the brain patterns of affected Rivari. The silent death is not actually a disease. It appears to be some kind of sensory overload." "Explain this in simple terms," Elder Fang requested. Jake stepped forward. "Your senses are too strong. They are picking up so much information that your brain cannot process it all. So your instincts start seeing threats that are not really there." Pack leader Vex suddenly stood up, his chair falling backward with a crash. "Threats that are not there?" he shouted. "I can smell the fear of my enemies. I can hear them planning to attack me." The other Rivari leaders began to move away from Vex. Emily could see their own instincts telling them that Vex was becoming dangerous. "Vex, please sit down," Elder Fang said in a commanding voice. But Vex was no longer listening to anyone. His breathing became fast and shallow. His claws extended from his fingers. The muscles in his legs tensed like he was getting ready to jump. Emily realized what was about to happen. Everyone stay calm and move slowly away from him. But it was too late. Vex's golden eyes went completely wild, and he let out a roar that shook the stone walls. He jumped onto the table and looked around the room like every person there was his enemy. The other Rivari leaders backed toward the walls, their own claws coming out. Emily knew that if they all started fighting, people would die. David Park stepped forward. He did not draw his weapon. Instead, he held up his empty hands and spoke in the same calm voice Jake had used with Nix 3 weeks ago. "Vex," David said clearly. "Look at me. I am not your enemy." Vex spun around to face David. His lips pulled back to show his dangerous teeth, and another roar came from his throat. "That is right," David continued in the same steady voice. "You can hear me clearly. My voice is cutting through all the other sounds, just like it did for Nix." Something incredible happened. Just like with Nix, Vex's wild eyes began to focus on David's face. The roaring stopped. His breathing started to slow down. "I can hear you," Vex whispered in amazement. "In all the chaos, I can hear your voice clearly." David kept talking in his calm tone. "The threats you are sensing are not real. Your pack leaders are not your enemies. You are safe in this room." Slowly, Vex climbed down from the table. His claws retracted, his muscles relaxed. He looked around the room at the other Rivari leaders with confusion. "What happened to me?" Vex asked quietly. Elder Fang stared at David with wonder. "You did the same thing Commander Mitchell did with Nix. You calmed a Rivari in the middle of a sensory breakdown." Emily checked her medical scanner. "His stress levels are returning to normal. David, how did you know what to do?" David shrugged. "I just did what felt right. Used a calm voice and gave him something to focus on." Elder Fang walked slowly to the center of the room. For the first time since the humans had arrived, he looked truly old and tired. "My fellow leaders," Elder Fang said in a heavy voice, "we have just witnessed something that should be impossible. A human calmed one of our warriors when our own pack bonds could not reach him." The other Rivari leaders looked at each other with shock and confusion. "For thousands of years," Elder Fang continued, "we have survived because our instincts never failed us. Our senses told us who to trust and who to fear. Our pack bonds kept us together through every danger." He paused and looked directly at David, then at Jake and Emily. "But now our instincts are killing us. Our senses lie to us. Our pack bonds break when we need them most." Elder Fang's voice became very quiet. "And the only voices that can reach us through the chaos belong to humans." Pack leader Vex stepped forward. "Elder Fang, what are you saying?" Elder Fang looked at each of the Rivari leaders, then at the humans who had saved Vex from his own mind. "I am saying something no Rivari has ever said before. Our instincts are failing us. We cannot trust our own senses anymore. If we are going to survive the silent death, We must learn to trust these humans more than we trust ourselves. The room fell completely silent. Every Rivari leader stared at Elder Fang with shock. What he was suggesting went against everything their species had ever believed about strength and survival. Jake stepped forward carefully. Elder Fang, we want to help you. But we need to understand more about how your senses work and why they are failing now. Elder Fang nodded slowly. Then we will show you everything. Our history, our biology, our deepest secrets. Because if you cannot save us from ourselves, then the greatest predator species in the galaxy will destroy itself, with its own strength. Emily looked at her medical scanner, then at David, who was still standing near Vex like a guardian. An idea was forming in her mind. A crazy, impossible idea that might be the key to saving the Reverie. What if we do not try to fix your senses? Emily said suddenly. What if we teach you to use human guidance instead? The room fell silent again, as everyone considered this revolutionary thought. Dr. Emily Watson stood in her temporary laboratory, surrounded by screens showing Rivari brain patterns. It had been 2 weeks since she proposed the idea of using human guidance instead of trying to fix Rivari's senses. Now she was ready to test, something that had never been tried before in the history of the galaxy. Are you sure this will work? Asked Dr. Michael Torres, who had arrived from Earth with a team of researchers. Michael was a specialist in alien psychology, and his job was to understand how different species thought and felt. Emily looked at the data on her screens. The brain scans show that when Rivari hear human voices during their episodes, their stress levels drop by 60%. Something about our voice patterns cuts through their sensory chaos. Commander Jake Mitchell walked into the lab with Pack Leader Grimm, one of the bravest Rivari warriors. Grimm had volunteered to be the first test subject for what Emily was calling the Trust Protocol. Grimm was massive, even for a Rivari. His black fur was marked with silver scars from many battles. His yellow eyes showed no fear, but Jake could see the worry hidden behind his warrior mask. Pack Leader Grimm, Emily said respectfully, thank you for agreeing to help us test this system. Grimm nodded. If this trust protocol can help my people, then I will try anything, even trusting a human more than my own claws. Lieutenant Mark Thompson entered the lab carrying a headset device. Mark was a tactical officer who specialized in combat coordination. He had spent the last week learning everything he could about Rivari hunting methods. The communication system is ready, Mark announced. I will be able to see what you see, hear what you hear, and guide you through the test scenario. Emily explained how the test would work. We have created a simulation that will trigger your sensory overload. When that happens, you must ignore all your instincts and listen only to Mark's voice. He will guide you through a hunting exercise. Grimm looked at the headset with suspicion. You want me to hunt while blind and deaf to my own senses? Not blind and deaf, Jake corrected. You will use Mark's senses instead of your own. This idea was revolutionary. No predator in galactic history had ever deliberately ignored their hunting instincts. It went against millions of years of evolution. Grimm took the headset and placed it on his head. If I attack someone during this test, stop me however you can. Mark put on his matching headset. I can see through your eyes now, Grimm. I can hear what you hear. We are connected. Emily activated the simulation. The room around them changed into a virtual forest filled with holographic prey animals. For a normal Rivari, this would be an easy hunting exercise. But Emily had programmed the simulation to overload Grimm's senses with confusing sounds and smells. At first, Grimm moved through the forest with his natural grace and skill. His yellow eyes tracked movement in the trees. His ears turned to catch the smallest sounds. Everything seemed normal. Then the sensory overload began. Grimm stopped moving and grabbed his head with his clawed hands. Too much, he growled. I can hear everything at once. Every leaf, every breath, every heartbeat. I cannot tell which sounds are real. His breathing became fast and shallow. His muscles tensed for attack. Emily watched his brain patterns spike into the dangerous red zone on her screens. Mark, Emily called out. He is entering full breakdown. You need to guide him now. Mark's voice came through the headset, calm and clear. Grim, listen to my voice. Ignore everything else. Focus only on what I tell you. I can hear you, Grim whispered. Your voice is like a light in the darkness. Good. Now there is a deer 20 feet to your left. Do not use your nose to track it. Do not use your ears to find it. Trust me to guide you. This was the moment of truth. Grim had to choose between millions of years of predator instincts and the voice of a human he barely knew. Slowly, Grim closed his eyes. I cannot see anything now. I cannot smell the prey. I can only hear you. Turn left and walk forward 10 steps, Mark instructed. Grim turned left, his movements awkward without his natural senses to guide him, but he walked forward exactly 10 steps. Stop. The deer is directly in front of you, but it is about to run. When I say jump, leap forward with your claws ready. Jake watched in amazement. Grim was hunting like no Rivari had ever hunted before. He was not using his eyes, his nose, or his ears. He was using complete trust in another being. Jump now, Mark commanded. Grim leaped forward with perfect timing. His claws found the holographic deer exactly where Mark said it would be. The simulation showed a successful hunt. Grim opened his eyes and stared at his claws in shock. I caught it. I hunted successfully while trusting a human more than my own instincts. Emily checked her screens. Your stress levels stayed normal throughout the entire exercise. The trust protocol worked. Word of the successful test spread quickly through the Rivari territories. Within hours, pack leader Nix arrived at the lab with 5 other warriors. We want to try this trust protocol, Nix announced. If Grim can hunt with human guidance, then so can we. Over the next week, more and more Rivari requested human partners. Emily and her team worked around the clock to create communication systems that would allow real-time cooperation. Engineer Katie Williams worked with a Rivari technician named HFY to build better headsets. Katie was a specialist in communication, technology, and HFY was an expert in Rivari sensory equipment. The connection is getting stronger, Katie reported. We can now share not just voice communication but also visual data and tactical information. HFY tested the new headset. Amazing. I can see through your eyes, human Katie. Your vision is different from ours, but it is clear and focused. Doctor. Torres made an important discovery while studying the partnerships. The Rivari brains are actually changing, he announced to the research team. New neural pathways are forming that prioritize external input over internal instinct. Jake found this news both exciting and concerning. Are we changing their species permanently? It appears so, Torres replied. But the changes seem to be voluntary. Their brains are choosing to trust human guidance. The real test came when pack leader Blade requested to take his human partner, Sergeant Lisa Chen, on an actual hunt outside the simulation. Lisa was a military specialist who had been working with Blade for only 3 days. Are you ready for this? Blade asked Lisa as they prepared to enter the real forest outside the city. Lisa checked her equipment. I have studied your hunting methods. I understand how you move and think. We can do this together. They entered the forest as the sun was setting. Blade's senses immediately began to overload from all the natural sounds and smells, but instead of fighting the confusion, he closed his eyes and listened only to Lisa's voice. There are 3 small animals to your right, Lisa whispered through their communication link. They have not noticed us yet. Move slowly toward the large tree. Blade moved exactly as Lisa instructed. For the first time in months, he was able to hunt without the chaos and fear that had been destroying his people. The hunt was successful, but more importantly, it proved that the trust protocol could work in real situations, not just in laboratory tests. As news of the successful real-world hunt spread, something unprecedented happened throughout Rivari society. Warriors began requesting human partners not as a medical treatment but as a new way of life. Elder Fang called an emergency meeting of all the territorial leaders. My fellow Rivari, he announced, we stand at a crossroads. We can continue to fight our failing instincts and slowly destroy ourselves. Or we can embrace this new partnership with humans and evolve into something the galaxy has never seen before. The vote was unanimous. The Rivari officially adopted the Trust Protocol as their new standard for all military, hunting, and exploration activities. But as Jake watched the celebration that night, he wondered if they truly understood what they had started. The Rivari were not just changing their hunting methods. They were changing what it meant to be a predator species. The age of pure instinct was ending. The age of chosen trust was beginning. 6 months had passed since the Trust Protocol became the new way of life for the Rivari. Pilot Alex Johnson sat in the cockpit of his fighter ship, connected through his headset to Wing Leader Storm, a Rivari pilot who had once been the terror of 3 star systems. "Human Alex," Storm's deep voice came through the communication link. "I can feel the enemy ships approaching, but the sensor readings are confusing me. Guide my eyes to the real threats." Alex looked at his tactical display, which showed 12 enemy ships trying to hide behind an asteroid field. "Storm, ignore what your enhanced senses are telling you. Trust my instruments. There are 3 ships directly ahead, hiding behind the largest asteroid." Storm's fighter ship turned smoothly toward the asteroid. "I see them now through your guidance. My instincts wanted me to chase shadows, but your human logic shows me the truth." This had become normal throughout Rivari space. Human Rivari teams were now standard in every part of their society. In the communication center, Rachel Martinez worked with PAC strategist Keen to coordinate complex military operations across 5 different star systems. "The Eastern Fleet is reporting strange readings," Rachel told Keen as data streamed across their shared screens. "Their Rivari sensors are picking up phantom signals again." Keen's yellow eyes studied the information, but instead of trusting his own interpretation, he waited for Rachel's analysis. "What do your human instruments tell you, partner Rachel?" Rachel ran the data through her computers. "It is another false alarm. The phantom signals are just echoes from the solar storm that started yesterday. The real enemy ships are in the northern sector. 6 months ago, Keen would have trusted his own warrior instincts over any outside advice. Now he immediately sent orders to redirect the fleet based on Rachel's guidance. But this new partnership was about to face its greatest test. Admiral Susan Walker stood on the bridge of the Earth battleship Liberty, studying reports from across the galaxy. Susan had been put in charge of all human Rivari military cooperation, and the news she was reading made her very worried. "Commander Mitchell," Susan called out as Jake entered the bridge. "We have a problem. Intelligence reports show that the hegemony of Scales is preparing for a major attack." Jake looked at the tactical reports. The hegemony of Scales was a group of reptilian aliens who had been enemies of the Rivari for centuries. They were smart, cruel, and they understood exactly how Rivari senses worked. "They know about the silent death," Jake realized. "They are planning to use it against the Rivari." Dr. Emily Watson joined them on the bridge, carrying her medical equipment. "The reptilians have been studying Rivari biology for years. If they have found a way to make the sensory overload worse, it could be devastating." Admiral Walker activated the communication system that connected to every human Rivari team in the sector. "All units, this is Admiral Walker. We have confirmed reports of incoming hegemony attacks. They will likely use sensory weapons designed to overwhelm Rivari partners. Prepare for emergency protocols." The attack came sooner than expected. Alarms began blaring throughout the Rivari command center as reptilian ships appeared on the edge of the system. These ships looked like giant metal snakes, covered in weapons that glowed with dangerous energy. PAC Commander Slash led the main Rivari fleet, with Lieutenant Tom Brady as his human tactical advisor. Tom was young but brilliant, with an understanding of space combat that impressed even veteran Rivari warriors. "Tom," Slash called through their communication link as the reptilian ships approached. "Something is wrong. My senses are going completely wild. I cannot tell which ships are real and which are illusions." Tom checked his instruments and felt his blood go cold. "The reptilians are broadcasting sonic disruptors. They are designed specifically to overload Rivari hearing and smell. Your senses are being attacked directly." Across the fleet, the same thing was happening. Rivari pilots and commanders were losing their ability to think clearly as the reptilian weapons targeted their enhanced senses. Many ships began flying in circles, their pilots unable to distinguish between real enemies and phantom signals. Pack Commander Slash grabbed his head as waves of confusing sounds crashed through his mind. I cannot see clearly. I cannot hear properly. Everything is chaos. This was exactly what the reptilians had planned. They knew that if they could overwhelm Rivari's senses, even the human partners would not be able to help. But they had underestimated human determination. Tom Brady opened a communication channel to every human advisor in the fleet. All human tactical officers, this is Brady. Our Rivari partners are being attacked by sensory weapons. We need to become their eyes, ears, and brains completely. Admiral Walker heard Tom's call and made a decision that would change the course of the battle. All human officers, this is Admiral Walker. I am authorizing Emergency Protocol 7. You now have complete tactical command of all Rivari vessels. This had never been done before. Human officers were taking control of an entire alien fleet because the aliens could no longer trust their own senses. Slash, Tom said firmly through the communication link. Close your eyes. Do not listen to anything except my voice. I am going to fly your ship for you. Slash, one of the most powerful predators in the galaxy, did something his ancestors would never have understood. He closed his eyes, took his hands off the controls, and gave complete control to a human he had known for only 6 months. I cannot see anything, Slash whispered. I cannot hear anything except your voice. Guide me, human Tom. Tom's fingers flew over his tactical controls as he began directing not just Slash's ship, but coordinating with other human advisors throughout the fleet. Turn 30 degrees left. Enemy ship approaching from above. Fire weapons on my mark. The battle became unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Rivari ships flew and fought with perfect coordination, but they were not being controlled by Rivari instincts. They were being guided by human logic and strategy. Fire now, Tom commanded. Slash pressed the weapon controls at exactly the right moment, destroying a reptilian ship he could not even see. Throughout the fleet, the same scene was repeated hundreds of times. Rivari warriors who could not trust their own senses fought with deadly precision by trusting human guidance completely. The reptilians had expected their sensory weapons to cause chaos and confusion. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that was more coordinated and effective than ever before. This is impossible, came a transmission from the reptilian fleet commander. The Rivari should be helpless. How are they fighting so well? Admiral Walker smiled as she watched the tactical display. The human-guided Rivari fleet was systematically destroying the much larger reptilian force. Because they learned something you never understood, Walker said quietly. Sometimes the greatest strength comes from admitting weakness and trusting others. The Battle of Twin Suns, as it came to be known, ended with complete victory for the human-Rivari alliance. But more importantly, it proved that the trust protocol could work even under the most extreme conditions. As the reptilian ships retreated, Pack Commander Slash opened his eyes and looked at Tom with something beyond gratitude. Human Tom, Slash said slowly. You flew my ship better than I ever could. You saw threats I could not see. You made decisions I could not make. Tom smiled. We make a good team, Slash. No, Slash replied. We are not just a team. We are something new. Something the galaxy has never seen before. The victory celebration that night was different from any in Rivari history. For the first time, humans and Rivari celebrated together as equals, as partners, as something that was greater than either species could be alone. 1 year after the Battle of Twin Suns, Dr. Jennifer Adams walked through the halls of the Interspecies Development Center with wonder in her eyes. Jennifer was a specialist in evolutionary biology, and what she was seeing challenged everything she had learned about how species develop and change. In the main classroom, young Rivari cubs sat next to human children, learning together in ways that seemed impossible just 2 years ago. The cubs were no more than 5 years old, but they were already learning to integrate external guidance into their natural development. Teacher Sarah called out a small Rivari cub named Little Claw. I can smell something strange, but I cannot tell if it is dangerous. Will you help me understand? Sarah Williams, a human teacher who had volunteered for the program, knelt down beside the cub. "Close your eyes, Little Claw. Tell me what your nose is telling you, and I will help you figure out what it means." Dr. Michael Torres, who was observing the class, made notes on his tablet. What he was seeing was revolutionary. These young Rivari were not just learning to trust humans when their senses failed. They were learning to include human guidance as a natural part of their development. From birth, the neural pathways are forming differently, Torres explained to Jennifer as they watched the children. These cubs are developing brains that naturally seek external confirmation, instead of relying only on instinct. Jennifer recorded everything with her scientific equipment. This is not just behavioral change, this is actual evolution happening in real time. In another part of the center, Pack Leader Nix was working with Commander Jake Mitchell on advanced tactical exercises. But their relationship had evolved far beyond the crisis management of a year ago. "Jake," Nix said as they studied battle plans, "my pack calls you our Mind Pack member now. You are not just our advisor. You are part of our family structure." Jake looked up from the tactical display. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means we cannot imagine functioning without you," Nix explained. "A year ago, we used human guidance because our senses were failing. Now we prefer human guidance because it makes us stronger than we ever were alone." Dr. Emily Watson entered the room carrying her latest research data. "Jake, Nix, you need to see this. The brain scans show something incredible." Emily activated a holographic display that showed Rivari brain activity over the past year. "Look at these neural pathways. The Rivari brain is physically changing. New connections are forming that prioritize external input over internal instinct." Jake studied the brain scans with fascination. "So they are literally evolving to trust us more than themselves." "Exactly," Emily confirmed. "And it is happening faster than we thought possible." But not everyone was happy with these changes. In the deep caves beneath the Rivari capital, a group called the Pure Fang held secret meetings. They believed that the partnership with humans was making their species weak and dependent. "We are losing what makes us Rivari," growled their leader, an ancient warrior named Rex. Rex was older than Elder Fang, but he had refused all contact with humans since the first day they arrived. "Our ancestors conquered this part of the galaxy through strength and instinct alone," Rex continued. "Now our cubs learn to close their eyes and trust aliens instead of their own claws." Pack Hunter Scar, one of Rex's followers, nodded in agreement. "The humans are clever. They make us think we need them. But we survived for thousands of years without them." Rex stood up to his full height, his red eyes glowing with anger. "The time has come to remind our people what true Rivari strength looks like. We will show them that instinct and independence are stronger than trust and dependence." Meanwhile, Dr. Torres was making discoveries that excited the entire scientific community. "The changes are not just in individual Rivari," he announced at a research meeting. "They are being passed down to the next generation." Jennifer Adams checked her own data. "The cubs born this year show brain structures that are naturally adapted for human-Rivari cooperation. They are born expecting to work with humans." Admiral Susan Walker, who was attending the meeting, found this news both amazing and concerning. "Are we creating a new species that cannot survive without us?" "That is the question we need to answer," Emily replied. "And we may get our answer sooner than we think." The challenge came from an unexpected source. Rex and his Pure Fang followers had been using ancient Rivari techniques to enhance their own instincts beyond normal levels. These techniques were dangerous and had been forbidden for centuries, but Rex believed they were necessary to prove his point. "We will show our people that pure Rivari strength is superior to human-dependent weakness," Rex declared, as he prepared for what he called the Great Challenge. According to ancient Rivari law, any warrior could challenge the current leadership by demanding single combat. Rex used this old tradition to challenge the entire trust protocol system. "I challenge Pack Leader Nix to single combat," Rex announced in the main council chamber. "If she defeats me using only her human-guided methods, then I will accept that the new way is stronger. But if I defeat her using pure Rivari instinct, Then our people must abandon this dependence on humans. Elder Fang tried to talk Rex out of the challenge. Rex, old friend, the pure Fang techniques you are using will destroy your mind. No Rivari has used them for 300 years. Better to die as a true Rivari than live as a human pet, Rex replied. Nyx accepted the challenge, even though Jake and Emily tried to convince her not to. I must prove that trust is stronger than instinct, she said. Not just for our species, but for the future of both our peoples. The combat was scheduled for the next day in the ancient arena beneath the capital city. Word spread quickly throughout Rivari space, and representatives from dozens of worlds came to witness what many believed would determine the future of the Rivari species. Jake spent the night before the fight working with Nyx on their coordination. Are you sure about this? He asked. Rex has enhanced his senses far beyond normal levels. He will be incredibly dangerous. Nyx checked her communication equipment one more time. Jake, a year ago I was dying because my own instincts were turning against me. You saved me by teaching me to trust your voice more than my own senses. Tomorrow I will show everyone that this trust is not weakness. It is evolution. Dr. Torres ran final tests on their communication system. The neural link is stronger than ever, he reported. But Rex will be fighting with instincts so enhanced that he might be able to disrupt electronic signals. Then we will have to trust each other without technology, Nyx replied calmly. Emily was worried about what would happen if Nyx lost. If Rex wins this fight, it could undo everything we have built together. Then I will not lose, Nyx said with determination. Because what we have built is too important to let one angry old warrior destroy it. As the sun rose on the day of the Great Challenge, representatives from across the galaxy gathered to watch a fight that would determine whether predators could choose trust over instinct and still remain strong. The arena was filled with thousands of Rivari, hundreds of humans and observers from dozens of other species. Everyone understood that they were about to witness something that would change the course of galactic history. Rex entered the arena first, and the crowd gasped at what they saw. The ancient enhancement techniques had changed him into something barely recognizable as Rivari. His muscles had grown larger, his claws had extended into deadly weapons, and his eyes glowed with an unnatural red light. But the most frightening change was in his behavior. Rex moved like a creature of pure instinct, with no trace of the intelligence and culture that made Rivari more than simple beasts. Nyx entered the arena calmly, her communication headset clearly visible. She looked small compared to the enhanced Rex, but her golden eyes showed no fear. Begin the great challenge, Elder Fang announced from his seat in the arena's highest section. Rex let out a roar that shook the ancient stone walls and charged toward Nyx with inhuman speed. The fight that would determine the future of two species was about to begin. Rex charged across the arena like a force of nature, his enhanced muscles propelling him forward with terrifying speed. His red eyes were fixed on Nyx with the single-minded focus of a perfect predator. The crowd watched in stunned silence as thousands of years of pure Rivari instinct moved to destroy everything the trust protocol represented. But Nyx did something that shocked every observer in the arena. She closed her eyes. Commander Jake Mitchell's voice came through her communication, headset calm and clear despite the chaos around them. Nyx, Rex is coming from your left. He will try to strike high with his claws. Step back 3 paces and duck. Without hesitation, Nyx stepped backward exactly 3 paces and ducked low. Rex's massive claws swept through the air where her head had been just a moment before. Chew! Crowd erupted in confused shouts. No Rivari warrior had ever fought with their eyes closed. It went against every instinct their species possessed. This is madness, called out pack leader Vex from the viewing area. How can she fight what she cannot see? Elder Fang watched with ancient eyes that had seen many battles. She is not fighting what she cannot see. She is fighting by trusting what another can see for her. Rex spun around for another attack, confused by Nyx's strange behavior. His enhanced senses told him that Nyx should be easy prey with her eyes closed, but somehow she had avoided his first strike perfectly. Jake, Nyx said quietly through her communication link. I can hear Rex breathing. His enhancements are making him move too fast for his own coordination. How can I use this? Jake studied Rex's movements from his position at the edge of the arena. He is overcompensating with raw power. Wait for him to overextend himself. When he lunges again, sidestep to your right and strike at his left shoulder. Rex gathered himself for another charge, his red eyes blazing with fury. The ancient enhancement techniques had given him incredible strength, but they had also taken away his ability to think strategically. He was now a creature of pure instinct, powerful but predictable. Now, Jake commanded. Rex lunged forward with all his enhanced strength, expecting to crush Nyx with overwhelming force. But Nyx sidestepped to her right at exactly the right moment and struck at his left shoulder with her claws. The blow connected perfectly. Rex stumbled and roared in pain and confusion. Dr. Emily Watson watched from the medical station, monitoring both fighters through her equipment. Jake, Rex's enhancement drugs are starting to affect his coordination, but they are also making him more dangerous as he loses control. I can see that, Jake replied. Nyx, Rex is getting more unpredictable. His movements are becoming random, as the enhancements overwhelm his nervous system. What happened next would be remembered for generations throughout the galaxy. Rex, driven into a frenzy by pain and confusion, began attacking everything around him. His enhanced instincts could no longer distinguish between enemy and environment. He clawed at the arena walls, struck at shadows, and roared at threats that existed only in his drug-enhanced senses. But Nyx remained calm, her eyes still closed, trusting completely in Jake's guidance. He is becoming his own worst enemy, Nyx observed. The very enhancements that were supposed to make him stronger are destroying his ability to fight effectively. Jake realized what was happening. Rex represents the old way, pure instinct without wisdom, pure strength without cooperation. He is showing everyone exactly why the trust protocol is necessary. The crowd began to understand what they were witnessing. Rex, enhanced to the peak of individual Rivari power, was defeating himself through his own uncontrolled instincts. Meanwhile, Nyx, fighting with her eyes closed and trusting a human voice, moved with perfect precision and control. Strike now, Jake instructed. Rex is exhausted from fighting shadows. End this. Nyx opened her eyes for the first time since the fight began. She looked directly at Rex, who was panting heavily and bleeding from wounds he had inflicted on himself in his confusion. Rex, Nyx said clearly, I defeat you not with my claws but with my choice to trust. She struck once precisely, and Rex collapsed to the arena floor. The enhancement drugs had burned through his system, leaving him weak and defeated. The arena fell completely silent. Elder Fang stood up slowly in his elevated seat. The great challenge is decided. Pack leader Nyx has proven that trust can be stronger than instinct, that cooperation can be more powerful than individual strength. But Nyx was not finished. She walked over to where Rex lay defeated and extended her hand to help him up. Rex, she said gently, you are not my enemy. You are a Rivari who fears that we are losing what makes us strong. But I promise you, we are not becoming weak. We are becoming something new. Rex looked up at her with confusion in his fading red eyes. You defeated me while fighting blind. How is this possible? Because I was not fighting blind, Nyx explained. I was fighting with the eyes, ears, and mind of my partner. I had all of my own abilities plus all of Jake's abilities. Together we are stronger than either of us could be alone. Dr. Jennifer Adams recorded everything from her observation post. This moment would be studied by scientists for centuries, as the point when a species consciously chose evolution over tradition. 6 months later, the first Interspecies Unity Summit was held on the Rivari homeworld. Representatives from across the galaxy had come to study the human-Rivari partnership and learn how trust could overcome even the most basic biological programming. Ambassador Robert Rodriguez delivered the opening speech to delegates from 40 different worlds. What we have witnessed here is proof that consciousness can triumph over instinct, that choice can overcome genetic programming, and that trust between species can create strength that neither could achieve alone. In the audience, Young Rivari, cubs sat next to human children, representing the first generation to grow up with interspecies cooperation as their normal way of life. Little Claw, now 6 years old, raised his small clawed hand to ask a question. Ambassador Rodriguez, Little Claw asked in his clear young voice. My human friend Tommy helps me understand confusing smells. I help Tommy reach high places with my claws. Is this what you mean by cooperation making us stronger? Rodriguez smiled. That is exactly what I mean, Little Claw. Dr. Michael Torres presented his research findings to the scientific community. The Rivari neural pathways have continued to evolve. The new generation shows brain structures specifically adapted for interspecies cooperation. They are literally born expecting to work with humans as partners. Pack Elder Sage, now partnered with Dr. Emily Watson, delivered the closing statement of the summit. Sage had been one of the most traditional Rivari leaders, but the events of the past 2 years had changed her perspective completely. My fellow beings of the galaxy, Sage began, we Rivari believed that our instincts made us strong. We learned that trusting humans made us stronger. But today we know the greatest truth of all. Choosing trust over instinct made us something entirely new. She paused and looked around the great hall filled with representatives from dozens of species. For millions of years, predators survived by trusting only themselves. Today, we prove that the future belongs to those who choose to trust each other. The summit ended with the signing of the Interspecies Cooperation Charter, a document that would guide relationships between species throughout the galaxy for generations to come. As the delegates prepared to return to their home worlds, Jake, Mitchell, and Nick stood together on the observation deck of the space station, watching ships from 40 different worlds depart in peace. Do you ever miss the old way? Jake asked. When Rivari relied only on their own instincts? Nix considered the question carefully. I remember what it felt like to trust only myself. It was simpler, but it was also lonelier. Now I know what it feels like to be part of something greater. She looked at Jake with her golden eyes, which no longer held the wild uncertainty of a predator, but the calm confidence of a partner. You asked if I miss the old way. But Jake, there is no old way anymore. We are not the same species that first called for your help 2 years ago. We have evolved beyond what we were. Down on the planet below, human children and Rivari cubs played together in the warm afternoon sun. They chased each other through gardens where earth flowers grew beside Rivari plants, creating something beautiful that neither world could have achieved alone. The age of pure instinct had ended forever. The age of chosen trust had begun, and in choosing trust over instinct, cooperation over independence, and partnership over isolation, the Rivari had not lost their strength. They had discovered what strength really meant.